Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 19 of the Bandwagon Hockey Podcast, Sunday edition. Low energy day for me. Had some drinks last night. A little bit tired this morning. It's a Sunday. School's on strike, so it's weird. Like, it feels like I'm in this weird sort of like, it almost feels like an exam period where I have like nothing to do except for study, if that makes any sense. Like, there's no classes, but it feels like there's like academic pressure.
Yeah.
But like there's just not a lot going on. Luckily, there was 100 games in the NHL last night to keep me busy, including Sens and Leafs, which I was attending, even though that game sucked. We'll get to that later. But Ryan, how you doing?
I am doing quite all right. Kind of like you, a little bit more low energy today because there's just like kind of important things to do today and not just relaxing on a Sunday, which is unfortunate, but
It's tough.
it has to be done. But there's plenty of fun things still to talk about in the hockey world, so I am looking forward to getting after it today.
There's not going to be a lot of connected topics in this pod. It's a lot of like individual based stuff, like this is going to be a very player driven, like not team, not standings, whatever. Very player driven episode, just because of like how much is happening. Players hitting accolades, season accolades. We've gotten like a handful of hat tricks over the last few days to like just skyrocket some guys' goal paces. Like Carter Verhaeghe hit 40 goals on the year after a 4-goal night last night. Like what? Like, excuse me, Carter Verhaeghe, 40-goal scorer. How you doing?
Yeah.
Pasternak's all of a sudden on 60 watch after hitting 50 like a week ago because he's scored 6 goals in his last 4 games. Nope, that might have actually been wrong. He has 7 goals in his last 4 games. Hat trick, 1-1 and 2. Where did we want to start first? Oh, that's right. Devon Levi of the Buffalo Sabres made his debut on Friday. I don't know how much of the game you caught. I watched the whole thing because I found it extremely entertaining to watch him play net. Did you catch any of the game before we sort of talk about it?
Yeah, I'll let you kind of take this one. I didn't catch much of the game. Saw a few highlights here and there and a few quotes, but very cool. But I'll let you take it from here.
So Devon Levi played Junior A with the Carleton Place Canadiens. That's where Ryan and I are both from. So it's kind of a cool thing there. He had his if you go look at his hockey DB page, it's insane. Like it's like
Unreal.
Historically good numbers at every level he's been at, whether it's Junior A, whether it's the NCAA at Northeastern in the last 2 seasons. Just absurd numbers, maybe even 3 seasons. I'm not sure, but I know for a fact he put up like a .952 save percentage in one of his seasons at Northeastern. I can't remember if it was his freshman or sophomore. I'm pretty sure he's only done 2 years at Northeastern, so maybe if Ryan, you want to fact check that while I go on a little monologue here. But no, so he played at Carleton Place, and he was having like one of the greatest sort of goaltending seasons in CCHL history, which is like the Junior A League for Eastern Ontario. And I mean, yeah, he was like on a track to be the MVP of the league. Carleton Place was a historically good regular season team, and then COVID hit. And since it's Junior A, it's not like, I don't want to say it's not high level enough, but they don't have like the money, I guess, that the big leagues did to sort of pause their seasons. Like Junior A, they kind of just canceled the season. And so there was just no nationals. There were no playoffs. There was just nothing that year. And people say that Carleton Place lost their best shot at a national championship after going to, I think, the final 2 years in a row and losing. Maybe it was a semifinal they lost, and they definitely lost a final. And they had gone to the national tournament, I think, 3 years in a row, which is like kind of unheard of.
At least 3.
Kind of unheard of in Junior A hockey when there's so much turnover. It'd be like a team going to the Memorial Cup 3 years in a row. Like, it just doesn't happen. But the program was just crazy, led by Jason Clark, who's actually coaching in San Diego right now for the Ducks AHL affiliate. He's actually he went to high school with my stepdad, and Jason Clark posted on Facebook. He was in Iowa for a game, I guess, and apparently he went and sat at a bar by himself to watch Devon Levi play, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. And Devon Levi, like a very quirky goalie. Like, he's very habit and superstition driven. He does this funny thing where in between like at the whistle, he takes his stick. So you know how every goalie will go get a drink of water? He takes his stick and tucks it into his pad. So it's just like, for those watching, or I'm going to try to visualize it. So you know how you've got your pad and it comes up to like halfway or all the way up your thigh. He takes his stick and wedges it in there. So it's like perpendicular to his leg, and it just sort of sits there. And he takes a drink of water, and then he just grabs his stick and is on his way. It's like the weirdest little like thing that he does. And my brother's a goalie, and he actually started doing that in his last year of house league, like his last year of minor hockey, because like Devon Levi was the goalie in Carlton Place. But anyway, wasn't really tested in the first period. Made 2 saves. Like the Rangers Buffalo just kind of dominated the first period. But then the third period was a different story. The Rangers had 22 shots. They scored 1. They went to overtime 2-2, and Buffalo ended up getting the win on a Jeff Skinner goal. Buffalo got the win 3-2. Devon Levi, first career win, making 32 saves on 34 shots. He looks legit. Like, he moves so well. It's actually unbelievable. The comp from a lot of people is Saros because of his height, but I think Devon Levi has a pretty decent-looking future in the NHL.
Yeah, and to give a little bit of context to his stats that we were speaking so highly of. So in his... Yeah, ridiculous. In his year at Carlton Place, Junior A, he went 34-2-1 with a 147 goals against average and a 941 save percentage. Yeah. And then in his first year at Northeastern, he went 21-10-1 as a rookie with a 952 save percentage and a 154 goals against average.
That's as a freshman.
Freshman.
That's absurd.
And I'm assuming the team wasn't as good this year because they did take a little bit of a drop. Of course they did. Those were absurd numbers last year, but still stupidly good numbers. At a 933 save percentage this year, 17, 12, and 5, and 2.24 goals against average. So still stupid, still top end goaltending stats. And they took a significant drop. Which is weird to say.
If a goalie puts up those numbers in the NHL, he wins a Vezina both years. It's like
insane. A 933. You are astonished with the goalie putting that up in the NHL.
Like the top save percent, Ullmark, as we say that, Ullmark has a 938 playing for the greatest regular season team ever. But still, that's
it's an irregular year.
Yeah,
it's extraordinary.
And no, so what do you have his D? Is that his DB or you have up there? What year was he drafted? 2021 or 2020?
So 2020.
And what,
7th round?
200 something overall.
212. Yeah,
212. That's crazy. So he was a part of the Sam Reinhart trade, going from Florida to Buffalo. At the time, I believe the trade was a first. I can't remember if there was a third piece, but I think it was mainly a first and Levi for Reinhart. And I think the general consensus was just, hey, we've got Devon Levi. I think they traded him after his World Junior performance when he stood on his head. That's the other thing too, is Devon Levi was had one of the best tournaments a Canadian goalie has ever had at the World Juniors, because that team stunk and he kind of carried them. And then ended up getting silver. But so he was traded from Florida to Buffalo because Florida didn't really need him. They had Spencer Knight. And all of a sudden, obviously at the time, you can't fault them for making that decision. Spencer Knight was taken 13th overall the year prior. And Devon Levi's this junior A kid no one knows about, taking the 7th round. But fast forward 2.5 years in the future, whenever the trade was made, and kind of looks like Buffalo made out like bandits here, getting their goalie of the future.
Yeah. And just before we wrap up on him too here, it's just looking at his trade history, because I wanted to confirm, just as you were kind of going through it there, it was just a first round pick and him, so the two pieces there. But the rights to his pick were traded twice before he was picked. It's just interesting.
Oh, the 7th rounder was traded
the pick.
Twice?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Does it say where?
Yeah, so they were both just
not that this matters at all, just out of curiosity.
Not at all. They were both just pick swaps, it looks like, but at the 2019 draft, it went from St. Louis to Toronto. And then at the 2020 draft, it went from Toronto to Florida.
Leafs fans will overreact to that, which is funny.
100%.
Okay, where do we want to move from here? There was so much scoring in the NHL last night. Florida won 7-0. We already kind of touched on Verhaeghe. He scored 4 goals to bring himself to 40 goals, which is kind of nutty. You just don't think of Carter Verhaeghe as a 40-goal scorer, but it was kind of interesting too. I'm just going to touch on this for a second. In the offseason, you know how Florida's roster got purged a little bit, and they kind of had to choose between Mason Marchment and Carter Verhaeghe because both guys were just found money making under $1 million, but both were playing amazing. And Florida definitely made the right choice in keeping Verhaeghe or Marchment there because Marchment struggled at times with Dallas this year.
Yeah, for sure. If you would have told me Carter Verhaeghe's putting up 40 this year, I would have. I don't know. There's no shot I'm believing that. What did he put up? I know he had a pretty good year last year, but was he anywhere close to 40?
Do you know? So I just pulled up Mason Marchment's now because I wanted to look at his. Okay. He's got 12 goals and 31 points this year in 67 games. I also remember hearing on a podcast, I forget which one, that he went on a really bad scoring drought of I think 20 plus games. But just looking at Verhaeghe, so he's got 70 points this year, 40 goals. Last year he had 24 goals, 31 assists, 55 points in 78 games. So a good season, a very good season. Yeah. But this year he just kind of took it to another level. And sort of on the topic of going to another level, we can maybe run through some of the ridiculous player performances, whether it be last night or on the season, that have kind of transpired. Yeah. Because it seems like everyone's having a career year this year.
Yeah, 100%. And just sticking with, we're kind of going from player to player here, jumping all around. Sticking with Florida real quick. Do you have a thought on Matthew Tkachuk hitting 100 points for the second season in a row, second team? I don't know how many times that's been done, but that is pretty insane.
Would you say he's the best winger in the league?
He's got to be in. I don't know if I would say the best, but top 3 for sure.
Kucherov, Pasternak, Tkachuk, Marner. Those are the top 4, right? Yeah. Robertson.
Well, nobody except McDavid is putting up 100-point seasons.
Rantanen. Damn, there's some good-ass wingers in this league, man.
Yeah, Holy. But think about it. Nobody in this league except McDavid is putting up back-to-back 100-point seasons. Nobody.
Draisaitl.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Outside of Edmonton.
It's insane that that's a disclaimer that you have to give now. Eh?
Yeah.
Just Edmonton. Yeah. Fuck, freaking Nugent Hopkins going to hit 100 points this season too. He's at 97. Yeah. What? What is that? McKinnon is at 97 points in 64 games. That's insane.
Stupid.
I don't know if I guarantee you haven't because who does? But they showed the shot leaders in the NHL at the Sens game last night. Brady Tkachuk's third, I think. Yeah. Third, I think, in the league. Okay. Third in the league. But what I thought was shocking was it shows the games played in the shots, right? So I think it was Pasternak first by a decent amount, 30 or so shots. McDavid second, Tkachuk third. Can you guess who was fourth?
Rantanen? I don't know.
Nathan McKinnon.
Oh, really?
His shots per game. His shots per game is top in the league. He takes over 5 shots a game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. The guy is a freaking, I don't even know what the word is, a Tasmanian devil on the ice. He's the most powerful player, I think, powerful skill guy, I think, in the league. Watching him play is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, and then just kind of randomly while we're on shots, I didn't even have this kind of written down to talk about, but I think Brady finally hit his 300 season.
No, he didn't.
He's been on pace.
He's not going to.
No, not yet.
I don't believe so for hits.
Did he do it last year? Because I thought
remember he was on pace too. He was on pace too in the 56 game season, but since it was 56 games, he didn't.
Damn, I think I got baited by a tweet then because I for sure thought I saw that.
He's at 227 hits. He's not going to get it.
Damn. He's not going to get it.
And I honestly, I don't know that he ever will now because he's turned into so much more of a skill guy than a power guy.
He won't, for sure.
Where's his hits? Yeah, so last year he got to 270 hits, and does it have shots on here? 288 shots in 79 games. So he wouldn't have gotten it last year, but
it was the COVID year, right? That
it was the
on pace
COVID
to
year
smash it.
in the Canada division. So he had 56 games played, like he played every game. He had 220 shots and 248 hits. He would have smashed it. He would have smashed it. He would have pushed 400.
Yeah, that's
maybe
absurd.
350. 400 is crazy. 350,
just high event hockey.
Yeah, but he's definitely like dialed it back on the aggressive hitting, and he's turned into very much a skill
just the
guy,
random
like passer.
And like just the random throw it on net. I feel like he's brought that back a little bit more, but it's still part of his game.
Yeah, it's the change in Brady Tkachuk's game has been crazy. But what were we talking about? So Nuge is going to get 100 points this year. Carlson had 4 assists last night, so he's pretty much guaranteed to hit that 100-point plateau, barring disaster here. Like Marner's going to get 100 points. Rantanen needs a game or two to like put up 3 or 4 points, but he might get there. He's at 92 with probably 5 games left. Pasternak's pushing 60 goals now after he just hit 50. I don't know if I mentioned that on the pod. We were talking about it before we went on the air. Robertson's going to get to 100 points. Pettersson's going to get to 100 points. It's insane where scoring's at right now.
Yeah, and this is all kind of a result of league scoring once again being at all-time, or not all-time, but new highs since like the mid-90s. I saw today on Twitter that games are averaging 6.48 goals per game, which is the highest since the 93-94 season. So I think we were talking about this last year. Like, are we still going to see more and more increases to scoring? Because, like, how sustainable is this?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
This year, it just took another step. And I really, really hope it keeps going this way because it's so much fun to watch.
It's so fun. Yeah, you could argue there's a point where you don't want it to get too much more crazy because I do appreciate like good goalies. Like I don't want every goalie to have a 905 save percentage.
Fair.
But right where it's at right now, I think is perfect.
Yeah.
You could go a little more. Like what's it at right now? Like 6.4 goals a game. Is that what? Is that what the number was?
6.48, so about 6.5.
So if you get to 7, I think I'd be cool with that. If it starts to get to like 7.5, 8, it's like, oh shit, like what's going on here? Like what's up with these goalies? But
yeah, I think I think right now, I don't remember if it was either 10 or 12 players that are on pace to hit 100 points. I think that's almost perfect because then you have a clear rhetoric of like, these are the top, like these are the elite players in the game. And it doesn't always work out like that with points. Like I'm not trying to generalize it like that, but
it's a cool number to hit.
Yeah, like I feel like that is solid. You just look at the top, you know who the top impact players are in the game for the most part.
And just like a quick thought on that, it's kind of funny how like let's be real, 50 goals, 100 points, like those are very arbitrary numbers. Like it's only like those are only considered milestones because they're nice and round. But it's kind of interesting that despite them being like kind of more or less just arbitrary because they're nice round numbers, they end up being like the cream of the crop actually hitting those numbers. So it actually works as a really good threshold for elite players.
Yeah, for a few years there, like 30 or 40 goals in some cases was like the new 50.
Yeah,
because that's all players could hit.
So I kind of wanted to circle back to that. So this year, like McDavid's going to hit 150 points. We're going to have probably close to 10 guys hit 100. You said 12, something around there, hit 100 points.
Yeah.
Like 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, McDavid won the Art Ross with 100 points, like an even 30 goals, 70 assists. 2014, 2015, Jamie Benn won the Art Ross with 87 points. Like it's crazy how much the league has changed in the last 8 years. And it just like, it's one of those things too, where there was no rule change, right? Like, you know how I think it's like the early 2000s, late 90s is considered like the dead puck era.
Yeah.
and maybe even into the mid 2000s too. But then I think, the lockout, they changed some rules. They got rid of some things, and they implemented some things like with penalty calls and etc. and like goalie regulations, whatever, just a whole bunch of stuff.
They basically started calling stick infractions.
That's
the stick infractions weren't really a thing before.
Yeah. And so that's when the change started, but then it kind of stalled out and even started to come back down in the mid 2010s. And now that we're into like a new decade here, like 2020s, all of a sudden scoring's on the uptick. And I think it just has to do with how hockey's played now and who gets drafted where and who gets deployed where. You've got like every team has maybe one guy who's like not insanely skilled. Like it's just kind of like been roster deployment, not necessarily rules or like one fundamental change. I think we've talked about this before though, like earlier in the season, maybe in reference to last year, because last year was also sort of a really high scoring year with reference to previous seasons, but this year is just taken another level. But I kind of want to circle back to when you mentioned Matthew Tkachuk being like the only guy you could really think of to hit 100 points back-to-back years with different teams. It would have been interesting to see Huberdeau like not shit the bed this year with Calgary, because then it would have been cool if they were traded for each other. The only other guy I could think of that could have potentially done it was Artemi Panarin, and he's actually never hit 100 points, so that one didn't work out. He hit 87 in his last year with Columbus, and then 95 in his first year with the Rangers.
I was just going to say the only person I assume who's done it is Gretzky, but...
Yeah, I feel... Yeah. Did you constrain that to wingers or just like any player?
No.
Okay, I was thinking...
it's just me thinking. Like, I didn't see this anywhere. I'm just like, I don't know who would have hit 100 points with two different teams.
Right. Well, that's the thing, too, is like players of that caliber just don't change teams. That's why the Calgary and Florida trade was so ridiculous, because you had two guys being traded for each other. Tavares has never hit 100 points, eh?
No, I don't think so.
I'm just thinking of when he
definitely not in Toronto.
Definitely not in Toronto. Yeah, there's not much there. That'd be an interesting one. Like, how many players ever have scored 100 points in back-to-back seasons, but for different teams? Okay. Who do you think? Who would you vote for the Vezina? This is like out of left field here, but there's been some debate over the last couple of days. Everybody's sort of
been debate. I know, but like I feel like it's a slap in the face if you don't give it to Allmark at this point.
You think it's a slap in the face?
I think it kind of is. Like, I know that's a historic team, but he's still playing unreal. Like, he's had so many performances that it's him winning the game. I don't know. It feels like a big slap in the face. He's a huge reason why they are what they are.
I think, like, the fact that Boston's this good, it kind of necessitates just, like, allowing them to clean house with awards. Like, Jim Montgomery should win Coach of the Year, or what's it called? Jack Adams. Like, Allmark should win the Vezina. Bergeron will win the Selke. Like, just let them sort of clean up shop in the awards ceremony. But my biggest thing against Allmark winning the Vezina is that if Jeremy Swayman were the starter this season, Jeremy Swayman would probably be the Vezina frontrunner. Because have you seen Jeremy Swayman's numbers? Those things are insane too. Like, he's been arguably like the third best goalie in hockey this year.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair discussion, but I don't know. If you ignore Boston, then I'm going Sorokin. But I think
100%. It's Sorokin and Saros.
Yeah, I think it's unfair to minimize what Allmark's done, to be honest.
So basically, it's just even though the team is good and you can sort of point at the team, like, just give it to him because he's been that good.
He's got the numbers and he has the performances. Like, I don't know what else you want from him.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder, I'll be interested to see the voting distribution, though. Like, the top three should, I would say, inarguably be Allmark, Sorokin, and Saros. But I'm curious to see if people treat the Vezina as, like, most valuable goalie instead of, like, best season by a goalie. I don't actually know how the Vezina is defined. I've always just assumed it was, like, best season by a goalie. But like there's been some funky shit with MVP type voting with like who's the most valuable to their team instead of just who had the best season. Because if you take Sorokin and Saros off of those teams, those are like lottery teams. But if you take Allmark off of Boston, and you've kind of seen it with Swayman, like they're still a great.
It's the same
team.
discussion with the Hart. Like
that's what I'm saying.
You can have this discussion all day long.
Well, that's just like my curiosity with how the Vezina will be voted on and how it normally does, because I don't really follow it too closely. Like the Vezina doesn't intrigue me as much as other awards. They're also voted on by GMs, and GMs are idiots. So like the Vezina is the only award that the GMs vote on only, which is so stupid. Like I don't get that. But anyway, what do you want to talk about next? I know you have a list.
Yeah, it's just where to go next. We can rhyme off some clinchings, I guess. The Boston Bruins finally did clinch the President's Trophy, and the Golden Knights also clinched playoffs. I'm not sure if anybody outside of that clinched anything, but those
Edmonton.
were the two that I saw. Edmonton?
Edmonton clinched, yep.
Nice. Yeah, so some West teams are finally clinching stuff up, which is good to see, I guess, which is crazy. Like, it took into the final, 10 games, 2 weeks of the season for clinchings to happen?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's crazy. Not even, the last 5 games of the season.
Yeah.
In the Western Conference. Edmonton's so terrifying.
So terrifying. I guess we can talk Skinner next. Skinner is crazy.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the stats in front of me right now, but Stuart Skinner essentially won Rookie of the Month with, I think it was 12 wins in a single month, setting an Oilers record, which was absurd. It's kind of bringing into light more and more how bad that Campbell contract is. And I heard several conversations, I listened to sports radio a lot during my work days. And I heard several conversations discussing that this week, even on Ottawa radio. So, that topic is once again floating out there, and what are they going to do with this Campbell contract?
There's not much you can do. I think you just got to eat it.
Yeah, probably.
Or just I don't know. It's too much term left on it to get rid of it. But no, Edmonton looks terrifying. It's just kind of unfortunate that they're looking at. They could easily catch Vegas. Actually, do they have many more matchups with Vegas? They do not. Didn't they just play Vegas? Yeah, they beat them 7-4. They play LA on Tuesday. They have two games against the Sharks, one against the Ducks, and then one at Colorado. So they have a 50-50 split down the stretch with 3 sort of layups, you'd think, against San Jose and Anaheim, and then they've got a couple tough ones against the Kings and the Avs. But Edmonton sort of looks like they're peaking at the right time here, going 9-0-1 in their last 10 and just absolutely steamrolling teams.
I also, I don't know why this never registered to me, but I never considered Stuart Skinner a rookie. I wonder how much Vezina, he gets, or not Vezina, sorry, Calder.
He's a rookie?
Well, that's what I just said. He won Rookie of the Month.
Oh, yeah, okay. He only had 13 starts last year.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be enough for a goalie to qualify as not being a rookie anymore.
He's got 25 wins, 911 save percentage.
Yeah, he'll get some votes for sure. But I don't know. I think the cutoff. So I remember in Zegras and Drysdale's first appearances in the NHL, the Ducks scratched them for one random game because they wanted to keep them underneath 25 games played so that they'd be eligible for the Calder the following season, neither of which won it, but they easily could have. So they played 24 games in their first stint in the NHL. So it burned a year of the ELC, but it didn't disqualify them from being a rookie. I wonder what the goalie number is. Maybe it's 15, maybe it's also 25, but I don't know. 13 should probably be enough to be not considered a rookie anymore. But that's not really an interesting conversation, just something I noticed.
I have no clue, but I think that's fair, yeah.
You want to talk about the Western Conference wildcard race? Have you been following it? Are you aware of the situation? Okay. So Winnipeg's at 76 games played. 87 points. Everybody knows how shit they've been. I believe they have 8 wins in their last 22 games. Just absolutely crapping the bed, like inviting teams
bad.
to come to the playoffs. Calgary has the same number of games played, 76, with 85 points, so 2 points back of the Jets. These records are hilarious. So the Jets, in a win-loss system, are 42 and 34. In a win-loss system for Calgary is 35 and 41, and they're separated by 2 points. That's one team with hilarious. 7 more wins, 8 more regulation and overtime wins, but only 2 points clear. I hate this league. And then Nashville, 75 games played, 84 points. So only 3 points back of Winnipeg and only 1 point back of Calgary. But here's where it gets spicy. Winnipeg plays Calgary on Wednesday and Nashville on Saturday. So that's both teams that are chasing them. Calgary plays Nashville on April 10th, their second last game of the season.
I think it'll make for a good race, but they're just all so mid that I just don't really care.
Oh, they're going to get smoked by Vegas or Edmonton in the first round, but it's fun.
It is kind of fun, I guess. Like, who would you... I guess I'd much rather see the Jets.
I want Nashville.
The wins.
I want Nashville to make it. Because they sold at the deadline. I think it'd be funny. I also want Winnipeg to blow their roster to smithereens, and this would just sort of put an exclamation point on that. And then I want Calgary to get rid of Daryl Sutter, so I wouldn't mind them missing the playoffs, so they can kind of open their eyes and realize, hey, maybe there's a reason Huberdeau's putting up half the production he did last year. But I want Nashville to make it because their top 2 centers right now are Cody Glass, and who's their second line center right now? Thomas Novak. So
I don't know. I would rather see the better team in.
Who's the better team? Those 3 teams suck.
Well, you look at the rosters, I want to see the talent on the Jets way more than I want to see the who am I watching on the Predators?
Yeah, but you're not going to watch that series anyway, are you?
I mean,
Vegas is going to steamroll them.
I don't know. I always throw on a bunch of random playoff games.
Okay.
My point is, I think it's better for the sport if
you're not cheering for Nashville, you're wrong.
Okay, no, you're wrong. I'm taking this personally.
Where do we?
You want lower quality players in the playoffs?
I want chaos in the NHL. That's like, I thought that was kind of a thing that we root for as hockey fans.
No, I want to be entertained.
You don't think having a freaking Mod Podge of freaking players on the Nashville Predators after they sold Tanner Jeannot for 5 picks. By the way, Tanner Jeannot has 4 points as a Lightning, which is funny.
He's got his first yesterday.
Yeah. Roman Josi, Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene, and who's the other one? Another defenseman, all injured. They traded Ekholm. Like it'd be ridiculous. Oh, and Forsberg. Forsberg's hurt. Philip Forsberg. Like Nashville, like all of their best players and all of their highest paid players. They've got like $40 million just on the, like just not playing right now because of injury, and they're on this like little mid run.
I don't know. I just want them to like go mildly into their rebuild with a new GM. Like that's what you're supposed to do. Do it.
Yeah, I guess, but like I think they're trying to, and these teams, and then hockey happens.
Like if they make the playoffs this year, then Toronto is like, oh, I think we can maybe do it next year, and sends it and pulls an Ottawa and just completely ruins that. I would hate that.
I don't think Trotz will do that. I think Trotz is going to have a very set plan. He's not going to let a freak playoff appearance because Winnipeg sucked. You'd hope, but that's the thing.
NHL like front offices are dumb.
I want Nashville to make the playoffs under the assumption that they won't overreact to a first-round appearance, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. This is just like a last stand for the Jets. I would much rather see that.
Remember a few weeks ago when we were talking about how boring the Western Conference playoffs were going to be? Yep. That's changed so much.
So quickly.
Like, the top, I would say 5, because Dallas has kind of fallen off here, but still, like, they're still a good team. Whatever, top 6, the top 6 teams in the West are like, it's going to be a bit of a gauntlet. Those 2-3 matchups are going to be nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for it. How do you want to wrap up the show, Ryan? Episode 19.
I guess we could. Well, first, you want to mention the Heedle contract?
Oh, yeah,
I guess because that was a semi-significant contract that came down.
What was it? 4 years times 4.375?
Something. Yeah, something around there.
I'll find it. I'll go find it.
All right.
I said 4 years, 4.375 million. Let's see.
This is great podcasting right here.
Let's see if that was right.
Down, but I just did not.
Yeah, we do a lot of looking up stuff while we're recording, and it's kind of funny.
I wrote down heel contract, but not.
I missed one digit, so I said 4.375. It's 4.4375. Damn. Okay, so yeah, it's solid. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of whatever. I don't really know what he's doing this year. What's he doing this year?
He's having a good year.
I think he's at, I want to say he's at like 50 or so points. I remember I went and checked it after he signed it. Oh, no, he's at 43 points, 22 goals in 68 games. Kind of interesting, too, given that, like, Lafreniere is going to be an RFA this offseason. Like, he'll need a deal. That'll be fascinating. There's no way that'll be any longer than 2 years. Like Kako just signed a bridge deal last summer, and he just, like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about the Rangers, but, like, man, oh man. Have you seen their cap sheet? Have you looked at the Rangers cap friendly? It's so ugly. Like, it's not bad because they have a good roster, but, like, the numbers are ugly.
Yeah, I have not looked at it, but I believe you. Do you want to wrap up talking a little bit of Sens? Because they have a few interesting storylines going on.
Yeah, but first I want to tell you a couple of the numbers off of the Rangers cap sheet.
Okay.
Sure. Artemi Panarin, this is the worst one. $11.642875 million. That's $11,642,857 a year.
Nice.
Barclay Goodrow, $3,641,667 per season.
I wonder if they work off like percentages.
I think so. They must, because there's no way you're coming up with 5-7, or they just come up with a number and years, and then it just divides unevenly.
Yeah, one of the two, because like they must just like look at players and you'll be like, you're worth so much % of our cap.
Like what was
whatever it is? This is the number.
Okay, so Panarin's original contract was $81.5 million. So I guarantee you that was just like, that's the number Panarin wanted over 7 years, and then it just divided all weird. I feel like that's what they work off of. Or it was like a percentage. It was 14.29% of the cap at the time. Okay.
I do know that some players like to use percentage as like comparable.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. What do you want to talk about the Sens? There are a few talking points.
So just the two things that I kind of had in mind was Clevin making his debut, reuniting, and then JBD getting called up, reuniting the Nodak Sens, which is a cool story for prospects that the Ottawa Senators had in college at the University of North Dakota. They all played together on the same team. I think it was 2 years ago. And now that they are all together in the NHL with the Ottawa Senators, which is pretty cool.
The other two are Shane Pinto and Jake Sanderson, by the way.
Yes. So it's just kind of cool to see 4 semi-impact players come into the NHL off one college team. I'm not sure how many times that's been done. Well, we'll see it more.
Let alone with the same franchise.
Yeah, let alone with the same franchise. But I thought that was pretty cool. And then once again, Ryan Reynolds was in the building as potential owners are kind of touring around the city this week. And that heats up. I'm not sure if I wanted to talk anything about that, but I thought it was pretty cool. You were in the building for a couple of those games. What was the vibe?
Hey, I don't know. You were at the first time Reynolds was at the game, and like he was very reserved, right? Like he wasn't taking pictures with people. He was kind of hiding in his box. A lot of security around him, and like he kind of stayed on the inside of his box seats. He didn't go around to the fringes. He wasn't being Ryan Reynolds. He was being very reserved. Like they put him on the jumbotron. He said hi, but it wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
Was it Tuesday he was there? Was it against Philly? I think it was against Philly, maybe Thursday.
It was Philly.
And he was everywhere. He went into the box that's next to him, took pictures with all those fans. He left his box, crossed the aisle and went to the following, like the other box that was like in a different section to take pictures with the youth hockey team that was in that box, like going crazy for him. So he did that. And he went and stood in the stairs and just took pictures with people for like 10 or 15 minutes. There were two guys dressed up as Deadpool at the glass. They came up, got a picture with Ryan Reynolds. They put him on the Jumbotron. He was waving. When Ottawa scored, he was like cheering for the team. Like he wasn't really doing that when Vancouver came in like November or whatever. It was just so different, and it kind of expectedly so. At the time, it was all rumors. Like he wasn't really like, everybody knew he was kind of interested because he went on like Jimmy Fallon the night before.
Yeah.
But now it's like everyone knows he's a part of an ownership group, a potential ownership group.
Now I think it's at the point where it would be highly disappointing if he's not part of it.
And that's what I think he wants to do. Like, that's why I think he was so like outgoing at the game. He's like, hey, NHL, like if my group doesn't get it, get me on the group that does, because you guys need me. Like,
yeah, well, like it would be so disappointing for the Ottawa market now, because like, I don't know, he's just already been attached. Ottawa's already kind of like invested in this. Sens Twitter loves it. I love it. Like just the possibilities of actually making this brand like quote unquote cool again. Like the Sens were in the dumps, and just now, like this was a good season to kind of build back the business. But could you imagine the heights it goes to with Ryan Reynolds and his marketing storytelling brain all over it?
Honestly, no, because Wrexham, the soccer team he built, their social media following has increased. I believe it was 900% when I saw the stat. That might have been a few months ago. So it's probably more now, because I think season 2 of Welcome to Wrexham has been out for a bit. So it's probably increased even more. But long story short, he has turned a 5th tier like Welsh soccer team into a global thing. Like people, they cannot keep their jerseys on the shelves. And can you imagine the amount of Ryan Reynolds fans, not Sens fans, Ryan Reynolds fans, that would see, I don't know, a Sens logo in a Deadpool movie, which I would bet a house on happening. Or just Marvel fans who love Deadpool, don't care about hockey, but they see that Sens logo, they're like, oh, that's cool, and then buy a sweater or a jersey. Like the amount that the team would skyrocket in terms of revenue and popularity is astronomical. Like I think it's underrated.
Yeah, it's not even the fact that like it's the association. It's what he will do, like physically do for the brand. Like,
there will be a documentary about the Ottawa Senators.
It's been reported that they will make a Wrexham-style documentary about the Ottawa Senators if he's involved. He's building a $1.2 billion production studio in Markham, like as we speak.
Oh, I didn't know
it's
that.
Just, it's lining up crazy. His production company, Maximum Effort, I think is what he's really building. Like he just sold his stake in Mint Mobile for, I think it was, I don't
350 something million.
Yeah, and then I think 2 years ago he sold his stake in Aviation Gym, which he's still involved in for like 600 million. Yeah. So he's making moves, and I think
he's liquidating his assets.
Yeah, he's making moves, and I think it's in pursuit of 1, building his production company, and 2, making a huge play for the Ottawa Senators. So
I'm very curious too.
Really cool.
The timing of it all, I'm very curious too, because the timing of him selling his stake in Mint Mobile, like 300 million, and that's like actual money that he's getting. Like that's actual money. That's not just like a stock that he sold. Like he's getting that money. I'd be very interested to know if the motivation for that was to sort of beef up his group's offer a little bit.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I think it was almost like absolutely in alignment with the second step of bids, which required like binding bids. The first step was just like, hey, I'll pay this much for the team. Yeah. And like no one really had to be responsible.
You didn't have to sign anything. You didn't,
Yeah. But the second round, and I think that was almost exactly when it was reported that he sold that, was when it was reported that the second stage had started. Mm-hmm. So I definitely don't think it's coincidence at all.
I don't think so. I think it'd be pretty badass if, let's say, Remington's group, their bid was like this is probably going to be unrealistic numbers, but let's say Remington's bid is 900 mil. The top bid is 950. And after Ryan Reynolds sold his stake for 350 mil, he chimes in with 70 million to be like, you know what? I'll take 8% of this ownership group instead of the 2 that I had. And like get us over the top and let's get this team here.
Well, also the one last part on this is that I think it kind of came out that the reason he's kind of aligned himself with the Remington group more so than he would have chose any other group is that they're going to let him have a massive say in the hockey portion. Like
really?
Well, let me say the team side of things,
sure.
Both like hockey and business, and they're more so like, here's the funding. We love everything that will go on around like the new rink, and like we do love your vision for the team, but we want you to do it. So he's going to have the control, which is a reason why he chose that group over others.
Interesting. I did not know that. That is interesting.
Like, I tried to go back and get the exact clip, but I'm pretty sure, I think it was Bruce. I don't want to be wrong, but one of the reportings actually said, like, it's expected he'll have a corner office in the new building if he's successful.
In the rink. The new rink.
Like, he won't be there 24/7, but like, he's expected to be involved in there, like, semi-frequently.
He'd be there a lot. He's in Wrexham a lot. He's there a lot. And, oh, man, I'm getting giddy. He's so going to be a part of it. Damn.
Well, one more quote I'll bring up, just because you brought up that, was, I think it was Mark Sutcliffe, the mayor, was saying in his discussion with Ryan Reynolds was, Ryan said, like, I'm so far away from Wrexham, but I'm only ever an hour flight away from Ottawa. Think of how much more I can do.
Yeah.
Like, that is so cool.
Yeah, I think that's super baller. Okay, let's wrap up the show. I have one very small story to tell. It's going to take about 1 minute.
Go for it.
Yesterday at the Leafs game, the Sens and Leafs game, I always say the visiting team because it's just assumed that it's the Sens. So at the Leafs and Sens game, I was down for warm-ups because I always like to sort of, like, for like Montreal and Leaf games, I think it's cool to get there early because you see all the Leafs fans like flooding the glass for the warm-up, which I think is cool. Like, as a Sens fan, it sucks, but it's cool just to see like how big of a fan base they have. And so we got there for warm-up, and I'm sitting like, I don't know, midway up to 100 level just watching. I'm just looking around, and I see like this bald guy with like a ginger beard in a box kind of by himself. And I'm like, that looks like Bill Burr. And I look back, and I was just like back to the ice. I was just watching warm-ups, whatever. And I was like, usually if I think someone is someone, like, it's usually who they are. Like, I remember when I was at Bayshore. I remember when I was at Bayshore, and I saw like what I thought was Jake Sanderson, and I had to look again and be like, oh shit, like that's Jake Sanderson. So I looked back and I was like, that's freaking Bill Burr. I turned to my brother. I was like, is that Bill Burr? And he's like, I don't know, like, check Instagram. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. So I go to Bill Burr's Instagram, and it says he's in Ottawa. So I'm like, oh, like, that's freaking Bill Burr. And like, and so I go up to his box. He's like very sort of secluded in his box, not as much security as a Ryan Reynolds, but nonetheless. And I'm like, Bill, like, can I get a picture? He goes, no. And then just goes back on his phone. And I was like, yeah, that checks out. Like, he seems like a dick. And I just thought it was, I thought it was so funny. I wanted to say something
hilarious, but that feels so on brand.
Yeah, I get massive like "you're a dick" vibes from Bill Burr. He's like big time Boston too. Like, Boston people are kind of assholes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
he's coming to Halifax in the summer, and I wanted to see him, but like tickets sold out in under a minute. Cool.
Yeah, he's big. And then, but no, it was funny. I almost wanted to be like, when he said no and just kind of went back on his phone, I wanted to say something really mean and be like, that's okay. You're like the second most famous person to be at a Sens game this week. But like, I was like, I wanted to so bad, but I just couldn't.
Oh yeah, you would have got up good.
I would have like felt like a loser for saying that because I didn't want to be butthurt about the picture. I didn't want it that bad. It would have been cool, but whatever. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my story. A lot of famous people coming to Sens games this year. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I was booming.
Ottawa is booming. All right, that does it for episode 19. 20 coming on Tuesday, probably. A lot of stuff going on in the league.
We said short.